There's a lot of darkness going on behind the scenes. Like, we have no idea. That's how they reel them in and collect all this data from them to save it and categorize it in folders. We got this person. And now we can get to Deepak Chopra and we can have him doing things and manipulating his field of energy, the people he's controlling, that see him as a guru. You know, they were really into psychic abilities. They were also into people that maybe displayed some type of telekinesis. They were into that because they wanted to get the DNA. It seems as if he was wanting a fragment of his own biology inside of this vaccine. And by that way, every single person will be walking around with genetics of Epstein.
Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks.
Billy Carson, at long last, you're here with me in the flesh.
Yes.
As you all know, Billy is on the show quite frequently, but this is way overdue. I'm so glad that we're here at the Conscious Life Expo. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, we're going to be talking about something serious and perhaps not the most joyful, but very, very necessary, Billy.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what I'm going to call the infiltration of consciousness. Moreover, the infiltration of the consciousness community.
Yes.
What has been happening? You're hearing it more and more. Do we want to mention names? Do we want to go there? We're going to talk about the Epstein files insofar as it relates to the more recent revelation of, you could say, one of our own, Deepak Chopra, and some of the unsavory acts that have gone on. Where to start? I want to begin at the beginning of your research into the Epstein files.
Yeah.
You've been following this since what, 2014?
2014.
Tell us about how did you get involved in, and why did you get involved in wanting to follow this?
I was the very first person to post about the Epstein files on social media back in 2014. Made an extensive post on Instagram and Facebook and on Forbidden Knowledge. You know, anyone can scroll back and find them. I was researching pedophilia for a long time because my daughter, Bobby, was a victim of a sexual assault, unfortunately, back in 2000, I think it was 2009. And it was a person that worked for the government, a government worker this happened in Pembroke Pines, Florida. And she was at the movies with a date. And this guy had a fake FBI badge, or whether it's real or fake, nobody really knows, but he flashed one and convinced him that he was a real FBI agent, although he wasn't. Maybe he snatched it from where he worked or something. But he told them that they had committed a crime by kissing in the movie theater. And my kids were so green, growing up privileged, they really believed it. You know, me and you would have been like, get out of here.
Right.
And they were teenagers, and the guy that she was with, he asked the kid if he was getting looked at for any sports. And he said, I'm a football player and I have, some scholarships on the table. He said, I can ruin your career with this information. And he believed him. And the boy left my daughter there with this guy. And he drug her through the theater. On the cameras, we saw him, and he tried to go out through the back door. And you can see him grabbing my daughter's wrist and thinking, should I go out with her kicking and screaming, or should I stay inside? Cars were going by in the back of the theater because a film just let out. He opened the door again, tried to go out again. He decided to go back in. So he decided to do his deed in the theater, went to an empty theater behind a curtain. And one of the theater maids saw him back there with my little tiny daughter. She weighed about 100 pounds.
How old was she again, Billy?
Back then, she must have been 15.
Oh my gosh.
And they didn't report it. They just walked away and left him back there with my daughter, which is why, we won the lawsuit against Regal Cinemas. It was an unfortunate thing, but because of that, they have more security. But he sexually assaulted her there. What he did was he put his phone number in her phone and hit send because he was going to go on another date. He hit end within less than he said, we're going on another date. They hit end, send and end. 1.2 seconds, it transmitted that data into the AT&T server. We couldn't find the record of the number, but I was able to sequester it from AT&T, and I got the number. The police weren't doing anything. They didn't even care about the case. And I tracked him down. I found his number. I did a reverse lookup on Intellius.com. I got his home address. I found out the house was rented, that he was renting a house that was for sale. I sent realtors over there to check out the house. I had the mapping of the interior of this house. And I'm going to be honest, I sat out in front of that house with my gun on my dashboard for a week straight. It took everything inside of me to hold back from taking this guy out.
How did you find out, if I may? How did you ultimately find out? Did your daughter tell you?
Oh, we got a call right away because my oldest daughter dropped him off at the theater.
Okay.
Of course, my oldest daughter was picking her up, and that's when everything came out. She was frantic. They were frantic. I'm at home relaxing on the weekend. I get this phone call. I'm going crazy. They get her back home. We call the cops and everything else. And it was just a bad situation.
Of course.
Yeah. So that got me into tracking these pedophiles. I started becoming more alert, like how many pedophiles are in my neighborhood, because they have to register, right? So I'm on high alert because I have 2 daughters. And I'm on super high alert now because they're out there, they're beautiful, they're playing sports, they're traveling all the time. I want to be aware of what's going on with my kids and are they going to be safe? That's why I'm on high alert. So when, how these things catch your algorithm, right? And so because I'm in that algorithm of looking for dangerous situations dealing with pedophiles, I guess that's probably why I saw this case pop up one day on search. And it was about a lawsuit filed against Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. In reference to a sexual assault case.
Exposure.
Yes, exactly. That's what got me on it. I researched the case. I found it was real. I posted about it on social media. I was the very first person exposing Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't know there were files yet, but I knew that what was going on there was crazy. And the more I looked into Jeffrey Epstein, the more I started realizing over the years, this guy was part of this intricate group of this type of a blackmailing cell that was in America that was tied to potentially Mossad in Israel. And I said, this thing is big. So over the years, I kept posting about it. I went really in on it very deeply in the last 6 months, way before we got to this point now. And I exposed everything, all the different deep connections. It's a global network, and he's just one of dozens of these cells around the world that are trafficking in this way, recording information and getting top secret documents to create these this blackmail ability for a particular country to dominate the world.
That's a lot of information,
Yeah.
Billy. And now, now that you've put your scenario of why you've been following this for so long into context, it really kind of brings it home. So now here we are in 2026, and we're finding out, possibly before, but particularly with this latest data drop, that virtually every industry has been infiltrated in some way, shape, or form, but by these sorts of things, not the least of which is, guys, we happen to be at the largest consciousness conference in the world. And we're talking about our little community, if you will, and we don't want to be naive. It's not so little, and it's not necessarily so innocent either, at least not all aspects of it. Many people that are participating in this are doing it with honest and authentic intentions. But when the likes of what we're talking about here steps through that threshold and into our world, which is obviously what has happened, all bets are off. Are you familiar with what has happened with this latest drop of not just Deepak Chopra? And I'm sorry, the man's still alive. I'm going to mention his name. He needs to be ashamed of himself. I mean, what were we talking about? He was mentioned in these files over 3,000 times, potentially more than that. Also, the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama.
I just became aware of that.
I knew about that. I posted the Dalai Lama first years ago. When he asked that kid to suck his tongue.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not pleasant stuff, but I think it's something we all need to be aware of as we proceed down the road at what we call awakening, and proceed with caution and discernment like never before. This is, I'll just say this to the audience and to you, and I have always said we can never know how bright the light can be unless we're willing to glimpse the shadow. We have now been handed the shadow to deal with, so we can bring this to the top, the scum to the top, scrape it off, and see the light.
True.
However, I want to talk about what do we do with this information other than just have discussions around disgust and disappointment. What can we learn from this? Tell me, have you been doing any research into how these sorts of things have been happening within our own community? Because it goes beyond Epstein and it goes beyond Deepak Chopra.
This has been going on for millennia. You go back into some of the most ancient texts and you'll discover these types of situations have been going on for so long. It's in the biblical text, it's in the Quran, it's in other holy texts, it's in the Vedas, it's in the Sumerian tablets. This is something that I personally believe where it stems from. If you go back into some of the ancient texts where they talk about the genetic modification of man and where they wanted man to multiply so they can create this slave race, this worker race. This is in the Epic of Atrahasis, okay? The Epic of Atrahasis, they wanted more people And they did a tinkering with us. And I think this is a hypothesis part now, that when they genetically tinkered with us to allow us to mate in certain ways, and they had these mating rituals that they were setting us up with, and people had to set times to mate, that they enhanced the sexual energy in people, specifically in men. And unfortunately, I think they had a very dark effect on mankind. And so these people in these particular positions of power that want to infiltrate the conscious community and all other communities and institutions and so forth, they understand the darkness that's hidden in a man when it comes to sexual activity. Yeah. And I believe that they prey on that. In other words, they know how to pull it out, tug it out. We all have darkness in us. Mm-hmm. Every single person has darkness in us. And it's not, can you eliminate the darkness? Because you can't eliminate your darkness. You can learn how to control it.
That's right.
And they understood the psychological ways through applied neuroscience, how to take down the shield that a person may be carrying to control that darkness. And once they take the shield down, that person's fully unleashed and activated. And they know how to keep that person activated. And they know how to keep them, by pulling on their strings, their sacral chakra strings. They know how to keep pulling on it to the point where they can make that person do the most egregious things, be involved in the most egregious things, and be so free and carefree about it that they'll send emails and text messages openly.
Which was obviously happening.
Yeah.
Are we talking about what we'd call the igniting of psychopathy, or even what is called secondary psychopathy? They say there's only about maybe 1% of our world population that has a genetic mutation that would deem them psychopathic. And yet there's a term that's been sort of bandied about called secondary psychopathy, which is a learned response. Is that in there as well? I mean, obviously with this, there's no empathy, there's no conscience.
The sociopaths.
Yeah.
They've activated that, and it's activated they probably were already sociopaths, but it took it to the next level. And a lot of these people seem to display also, the people involved seem to display narcissistic personality traits.
Question. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they fully activate that. They take the shield down. They find a way psychologically to have that person take their shield down, and they get them so comfortable with their narcissistic self and their ego that they believe they're untouchable. And that's how they reel them in and collect all this data from them to save it and categorize it in folders. We got this person. And now we can get to Deepak Chopra, and we can have him doing things and manipulating his field of energy, the people he's controlling, that see him as a guru, and we can get them to fall in line with whatever we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's touch on some of the beyond the other disgusting insatiable appetites of Epstein.
Yeah.
His reportedly had this fascination with people who had special abilities, fascinated with autistic individuals with telepathic skills, fascinated, we know, with the whole AI and transhumanist component. And so it doesn't surprise me, however he felt the need to touch into this community, that he did so, and he found a prime source by which to do so. Look, I'm going to bring up somebody's name, and she gave me permission to do so, because this individual, her name is Cynthia Sue Larson. She's a dear friend of mine. I've known her for 20 years. She's been in our community for a long, long time. And she was interviewed by Deepak back in 2015.
Wow.
Interviewed by him in his New York City studio. Well, to make a very long story short, through that, and it was a very short 1 hour, one-off interview, but through correspondence apparently that they had in the lead up to the interview, she ended up in the Epstein files.
Wow.
She, along with some other well-known scientists, some of them may be here today. I'm not going to mention any other names because I don't have permission, but Cynthia wanted me to bring this, or said, please go ahead and bring up my name, because it's almost like by default, guilt by default, because she happened to show up in this data dump. Basically what I'm calling, who I'm calling DC, because I really don't want to say his name. What he did was he took apparently a thread of emails of prominent scientists, quantum scientists like herself, pertaining to, it was a consciousness thread, let's just say, and he forwarded the whole list to Epstein, and my friend was on.
Wow.
Cindy was one of those individuals. So there was some sort, was this a deep-seated plot? And was Deepak the sort of, double agent? I mean, I got to go there. We've got to ask the question.
Right.
Yeah,
it's really deep. What they're, they were really into, psychic abilities. They were also into people that maybe displayed some type of telekinesis.
Yes.
They were into that because they wanted to get the DNA. They were getting DNA from people. They were experimenting. Epstein was funding mRNA sequencing, right? He was funding all the technology that can reprogram RNA and DNA. And he, even in the files, had talked about wanting to be basically in some way intrinsically linked to every single person on Earth through the vaccine, which he was working with Bill Gates and Fauci on.
All makes sense.
And so it comes down to some text where some is redacted, but you could put enough together where it seems as if he was wanting a fragment of his own biology inside of this vaccine. And by that way, every single person will be walking around with genetics of Epstein. So everyone that's walking around with the vaccine potentially could have a little bit of Epstein inside of them.
Oh my God.
That's his narcissistic ego that he had out there. He wanted to be, not get every woman pregnant, he wanted his DNA in every person. And he was utilizing the vaccine research to try to accomplish this.
How were you able to dig that up, Billy?
Oh, it's just going through those files, you know. I went
You
through
were
the
able to
files.
piece that together.
Yeah, I downloaded a lot of the files. And so the way they designed this download is
It's
insane.
incredibly difficult to do, I'm told.
I had to make my own bot to go in there and pass the human check. And once I got through the human check, to run through back up through my own IP to go in there and start collecting this data and pulling these files down. And even that takes a while. But then you got to organize them and start scanning them. So I wrote my own code to start scanning the files, looking for particular information. You know, just to kind of categorize it, kind of roughly, you know, in a beta kind of categorization, so I can go through and maybe find some things that would be interesting. And I started finding a lot of crazy stuff, obviously. And some of the files that they had that were poorly redacted by accident on purpose. I think somebody gave us a little gift.
Right.
We were getting some good data there too. And I think that the people who were hired to do this process, these redactions, were releasing some of this stuff on purpose. Like they seeded it with enough information to really let us know that there's a lot of darkness going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Like we have no idea.
And a lot of strategy.
A lot of infiltration of systems, of governments, of institutions. And of course, as you know, a lot of the of children, which is really insane. You know, Ellen DeGeneres, you know, one of the top people eating the jerky. She's like the leader in eating jerky, which you're talking about, you know, eating people.
I should have put the disclaimer up a little sooner.
I'm sorry.
But listen, well, let's go back to what we initially said. There's no way we're going to know how brilliant this light can be unless we have the courage to glimpse the shadow.
Yeah.
Something is happening, Billy, as we look at the ugliest of ugly. I maintain that this is truly a time of revelation, that this is brilliant, actually. And despite the fact that it is it's beyond evil, we are now at a choice point like I've never seen before within the consciousness community and outside of it. That choice point is, are you going to look? And if you do, how is it going to change you? How is it going to inform the fact that you have agency over your own life? You know, we have been indoctrinated to look at gurus of all kinds in all industry as better than us. And now we're being shown the raw file of who and what they really are. Is that what we are aspiring to be? Absolutely not. No. So this is I'm strangely excited in a way.
Well, it's a wake-up call, and it's actually, we have to see that what happened to these poor children. I mean, I really feel bad for these children. I was bawling in my house one night just because of when I was going through these files. It was so dark, and to hold all that in, it was just like, oh my God, to realize what really happened is like very destructive to my own consciousness. It took a lot for me to process that. It was so dark. But we have to say, okay, these kids, unfortunately, they've gone through this process, and we have to see them as a sacrifice for humanity.
Yes.
We cannot let them go down like this, and then we just walk around like everything's okay.
We can't.
We can't do that. We have to actually go in there, and we got to make this known. This is why I've been so hardcore on this topic, because these people have to be exposed. Because what they did to these kids there's no coming back from this. And if we allow this to go, let them get away unscathed, they're going to be like, oh, okay, we got away with this. Now we can do whatever we want to these people. If they let us get away with this, We can take away all their rights. We can do this again in broad daylight. We can ramp this up and make it a big thing,
Which
and just
I
keep it
think they
public.
would like to do.
They would love to make it open and public, make it legal even.
Well,
You know?
are we not dancing around this idea of, not only not a slap on the hand to pedophiles, but it's actually just a mental illness.
It's just a mental illness. It's okay.
This
Hunting black people like the Hunger Games in the files. Hunting, going on a hunt, releasing them into the wild, into bushes and woods, and hunting them down with guns. This was a game. They had real life Hunger Games. It makes me think now that the Hunger Games writers knew about this. They're all tied together, and they turned it into a movie series.
Well, we know about predictive programming, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I know we're kind of bouncing around, but it all threads together. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about predictive programming and how I think this is clearly something that those that practice the occult in this regard feel that there's some kind of karmic release, or they're held harmless, that if they put it out there, even if it's not hitting your conscious mind, even if it's just hitting the subconscious, they feel that they've cleared the way karmically to proceed. In other words, they need to get our permission.
Exactly.
Even if it's not consciously.
They always get our permission. They always get our permission. And our permission puts us in collusion, either through silence or acquiescing to whatever it is and just going along with it. Our participation.
Right.
Yeah. That's how we sign our signature. We sign our signature through participation in silence. And this has to be one of the things where we say no more. We're going to draw a line in the sand, and there'll be no more. We are not going to stay silent. We don't care about no damn alien files coming out. We want the Epstein files, not the alien files. We don't want the distraction.
There's connection there too with all that's going on, isn't it? Isn't it interesting how all of these things are kind of converging at one time? We'll be having a conversation with Daryl Anka tomorrow here on site. We're going to go on that side of things, but as far as I'm concerned, they're all connected. The distraction factor is built into all of these things all the time.
They use the psychology all the time.
Absolutely.
They know what to do to kind of maybe divert a little bit. I call this now, it's alien versus predator, literally. We got the predators, which are the people involved in the Epstein files, and we got now the aliens being declassified. So it's alien versus predator in real life.
You believe it's going to be declassified?
No.
No.
They're going to show us a bunch of information that's disjointed, partial stories, redacted documents, things that are so bland that we've known about them for decades. There's going to be no real hardcore, deep, declassified information that's going to make us go, wow, that's where they're storing the crafts at. And, these are the capabilities of, no, that's not going to happen. This is just another thing to send people down a rabbit hole. They'll put the files out, similar to the Epstein files, in a very disjointed fashion on the website. Almost impossible to download all the information unless you can write your own code just to scrape it. And people will spend, what they're hoping is people will spend hours digging through that stuff to find nothing to talk about, while they're completely distracted from what's really going on behind the scenes. And people think that because the Epstein files are out, that this ring of pedophilia and everything else has gone to, halt. It hasn't halted. It's increased.
I would say it's increased. Absolutely.
It's increased. Yeah.
I want to go back to this idea. This is a new one for me in terms of what you were able to thread together about DNA becoming, or his DNA becoming ubiquitous throughout those that took the jab, if you will.
Right.
Let's just talk about that a little bit more. And I'm trying to figure out how all of this would play out. We're talking about a population of roughly 8.5 billion people. Certainly not that many took the shot, but a lot of people did. And we're talking about behavior modification vis-a-vis this DNA mutation among the same group of people, us, that are to be awakened or should be awakened to this. Once that DNA has been mutated, are they even capable of waking up?
That's probably what they're trying to do, create a bunch of robots. I know that in the files they had talked about, Bill Gates was talking to Epstein about how can we unalive most of the poor people? And they said we can do it through the Jabberwowski, through the vaccines. Unfortunately, you can probably have to mute that. But and so what he was talking about was doing that, but also how can we modify them? And I think that they were talking a lot of genetic modification in that. They were talking about genetic modification in these emails as well. And so maybe it's to make this this race of people that would just be almost like automatons,
right.
people that would just go along with anything, that would acquiesce to whatever situation arose, almost like just hamsters on the wheel, thinking they're going somewhere but never really going anywhere and
I
just
think
going
we're
along with
more or
status
less
quo.
there now.
Yeah,
Are we not?
that's what they have us. They have us there. And people need to wake up and realize that in order for us to really grow, it's what I've always said, we have to take back control of this planet.
Absolutely.
These people, we have, and we can see there's a lot of them, but overall, out of 8 billion people, the ones in that list, there's still less than 0.1% of the population. And those are the people controlling everything. Mm. How can we have 8 billion people being controlled by such a small fraction of people to the point where they're even eating kids? That's insane. That's insane on our part.
That's so hard to even just hear.
Yeah. And we've allowed it. We have to become hyper-vigilant. Parents need to become hyper-vigilant.
Hey, everyone. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this content and you want more, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. This tells YouTube you want to see more Higher Journeys, and that helps spread the word. It's one of the best ways you can support our work. Thanks so much. Now, let's get back to the show. Billy, not only have don't get me wrong, there are many parents that are doing the right thing, but there are many that have given into this elite, some of which have willingly given over the children for payoff.
Oh, yes.
Many.
I saw that one cabinet member, I forget the name of the country, which country it was, it's one of them, maybe it's Poland or one of them, it was a female. She received $5 million for each one of her kids from Epstein. And so she had to resign. But what's about resigning? What about going to prison? Even they locked up the prince the other day, but he got right back out. And they didn't even lock him up with charges based on the Epstein files. It was for corruption. So he's not going to do any real time.
Yeah, it's tangentially connected, I think, to the Epstein files.
It's not really, it's not the real, hardcore, this is what you did to these kids.
Right.
So was anybody really going to see any significant prison time? I know that Lex Wexner was being deposed, and his attorney leaned over and spoke into him, and they caught on the mic that he had, and it's going viral right now on my account and every other account. The attorney told him, if you say more than 5 words again, I'm going to kill you.
Now, who said this?
Lex Wexner's attorney during the deposition.
Oh my God.
And you got to watch this. You got to superimpose it over this video.
Answer not the question. 5 words, okay?
Lex Wexner's attorney is a depo. He leaned over and said to him in his ear, but he said it so loud, the mic on Wexner's lapel picked up the conversation, and it's going uber viral right now. Well, who's told his attorney to tell him that? In other words, who's got the reins on this guy? He started talking about this whole thing is running through the Rothschilds. And that Epstein was working for the Rothschilds. He says this in the depo.
He says this in the depo.
Yeah.
Things that we knew for so many years.
We knew.
Finally coming. And this is why, look, guys, I did say, there's a measure of excitement that I have about all that's going on, zoomed out at a really high level.
Yeah.
On the ground, I'm mortified and I'm saddened and I'm disgusted.
Yeah.
It's surreal. But I say I am maybe excited is not the right word, Billy, but rather...
I know what you mean. It's all coming out.
It has to come out.
It's coming out. And unfortunately,
these
kids were the sacrificial lambs for this. But, we're here now. And are we going to let them die in vain and be tortured in vain? Or are we going to stand up?
Must.
Yeah.
We must. What next? What now? What's going to happen to DC?
Man, look, I really need... We as a people...
What do we want to have happen to DC?
What we need to happen is we need the system to collapse. I mean, now here's the part that they know. They've got us so beaten down with divide and conquer tactics that we still have left versus right and this religion versus that religion and this skin color versus that skin color. And they're hoping that we will never unite and do what they did to us. Create our own pandemic, shut the world down. That's the real key. The real secret to stopping all of this is so simple, but so hard. If we all united, there's 390 million Americans. 190 million of them are adults. If out of that 190 million, only 50 million didn't go to work tomorrow, didn't pay their bills, didn't buy gas, didn't take public transport, didn't go to the grocery store, didn't do anything, just stopped. That literally alone would shut down the entire system. We need the military officers that are blindly taking these commands from people in $10,000 suits to fly halfway around the world and drop $10 million bombs on people in tents. We need them to stop and wake up. We need them to pull back and say, I will not oblige these orders anymore. People need to come to a point where we just realize it's humanity against darkness, and we have to stop. No matter whether you're a police officer, a military officer, or a civilian, everyone has to come together. Now, they know that's one of the hardest things for us to do. And if we ever got to that point, we would go into a golden age instantaneously. These people should be dragged out into the street, and unfortunately, they should be executed.
Public hanging.
Public hanging.
I see nothing short of a coup on the part of the people to overthrow our government, and then hopefully it matriculates. I mean, I don't know if this is a pipe dream or not, but I mean, I can't see anything less, Billy, at this point. We're so deep in. I pray every day for my fellow man, our fellow humans, to please understand, please wake up. You're doing yourself a disservice and all of us by being oblivious to this. This convenience, conveniently oblivious, cognitive dissonance, all these things we talk about constantly. But this is source somehow saying, I'm going to show you in the clearest way possible. This is your chance, guys.
This is it. We might not get another chance.
Particularly in this community, but writ large, obviously.
We might not get another chance like this. Like, we literally might not get another chance. This is a 1 in a million opportunity for us to really wake everybody up and get to see how dark it is behind the scenes. We've pulled that curtain and we've seen behind the veil. If we just drop that curtain and go along, like in our everyday lives, like NPCs, non-player characters, shame on us.
NPCs, there are a lot of them.
Let's
end on a high note. All of this has been just incredibly valuable, and I hope you guys are in the audience are getting something out of this. Let's zoom out, Billy. Let's leave our ego selves here for a moment and look from above. What's really happening from a spiritual perspective? If you were to cast that net beyond, what do you see?
What I see is what the Hopi prophecy talks about, right? We're heading into the 5th age. And this is really what the whole 3-Eye Atlas was about. 3-Eye Atlas was both the red Kachina and the blue Kachina, because it turned red and then it turned blue when it went behind the sun. It was the brightest red and the brightest blue object ever to pass by the earth. And this is the Hopi prophecy being fulfilled. And they talk specifically about the fact that we're coming out of this 4th age. And they say in so many words that it's going to be a big uprising. In other words, these elites are going to go out kicking and screaming and scraping, and that's what we're seeing right now, the end of an age, this last temper tantrum. But to get into the 5th age, it said there's a choice that we have to make as humanity. And based on our choices, that's going to be what our consequences are going to be. We're going to reap the consequences of our choices, it says, going into the 5th age. So what choices are we going to make? The consequences could be good, the consequences could be bad. It's the principle of cause and effect from the Hermetic principles, right? You have an act, a conscious thought, you take action behind it, you're going to get a consequence. We've got the conscious thought. If we don't take action, the consequence could be bad. If we take the proper and right action, the consequence could be good. What kind of world are we going to step into this 5th age? That's the question. And I think spiritually, it's all about the universe showing us this great awakening to see, look behind the veil, take a peek.
We're showing it to you.
Yes. How do you want to go into this 5th age? Do you want to let this continue, or as a civilization, or are you going to put a stop and an end to this and walk into this new age proper? I think this is our opportunity.
This is our opportunity, and I have no doubt that there will be a significant portion of our humanity that will do just that. But there'll be invariably a large portion that will not. And this brings me to the possible bifurcation of this planet. Dolores Cannon talked about it. Other individuals in our space have talked about it. I've had conversations with people like Laura Eisenhower, and there's a whole teaching around that. But I, like it or not, somewhat resonate with the idea. First of all, I have an issue. I take issue with the "we are all one" mantra. I have always taken issue with that. We are all connected to the one. But I don't know that we are all one in that way. It could very well be. I don't know. But if there is a bifurcation, literally a separation of frequencies, that there will be those that are accepting that invitation and walking into that golden age, and others that will be completely oblivious and will continue along their trajectory. What are your thoughts on that?
That's quite possible. We're coming to a fork in the road as humanity right now.
Indeed.
There's a fork in the road. It's right there too. I mean, we're right up on this fork, and one side can lead to a golden age, and the other side can lead to complete, utter damnation, you know? And also, from looking at a different way, one side can lead to people coming together in unity and a high vibration, high frequency to take the world in a different direction. And it could be something you say, bifurcate and go down the other side of the road and become these reclusive people that kind of create their own community, so to speak, you know? Both things can possibly happen.
Coexist.
Yeah,
The two could
coexisting.
coexist.
Yeah, coexisting. We could have people on the outskirts with their own reality and how they want to live and how they want to do, and we can have this, you know, golden age going on right in the midst of all this darkness, which happened in the past.
Some people believe that's happening right now,
Yeah.
Billy. There's some people, I don't know, I certainly don't count myself among them, but I've heard of individuals who are at such a level of, they're living their lives in such a way that they can't even be physically detected by some people walking down the street. So
Yeah.
is there some semblance of that going on right now? I wonder. Who's to say?
I think we're at the very beginning stages that we're in the beginning stages of that type of activity happening. And it could be that Egypt rose to several golden ages, but the people outside of Egypt, they were cannibals. They were eating each other. And so a golden age can exist on a planet where other parts of the planet, other regions are dark. You know, so it could be this bifurcation where we have this golden age era in one place and the other place could be absolute total hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of a very basic alchemical principle that I've always resonated with, where you've got two opposites that are coexisting. They create kind of this neutral formula. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but out of it comes a third reality. There's a third reality that's created out of the two polar opposites. It's very alchemical. I don't know.
We'll see. It's you know, it's still I'm still optimistic for the future. You know,
I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I always think that the light's going to beat the dark anyway, and this exposing of what's going on is here for us to take a stand. You know, to get angry, but not just to be angry, to do something.
Yeah.
To do something. Don't allow these kids to suffer in vain. Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, you guys, the kids.
Yeah.
And in a way, we're all those children.
Yeah.
We are of the one. So, Billy,
Absolutely.
we're gonna wind down with that. As always, we want to hear from you. I know this is going to be a highly controversial talk, but we need to go there, and we're going to continue to go there here on Higher Journeys with my friend Billy Carson and others that are doing great work like Billy. So we do want to hear from you. Please do comment, and let's see if we can do a part 2. Questions for Billy. Let's see what we come up with. In the meantime, what's going on with you, dude? I know we're working on some things together.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of exciting things. Forbidden Knowledge is now a publicly traded company. Yes. We're on the stock exchange.
Yeah.
OTCID, B as in boy, BELR. We went through a reverse merger into Belrose Capital. I own 70% of the company, and we are doing incredible things. Really excited about the future now for Forbidden Knowledge. We have a lot of new divisions now, a AI-driven tech division, which is all based on technology and AI that's designed to solve solutions and help humanity in a positive way, what it's really there to be for. And a lot of events coming up, a lot of huge events, and more incredible productions coming out very soon.
Well, you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
You're always such an inspiration to me and so many. I'm so blessed to call you a friend. So as I always say, I don't think there's one episode where I don't say, I love you.
Love you too, Alexis. Thank you so much.
Billy Carson, thanks, my dear.
Thank you.
And thanks as always, you guys, for tuning in to this very honest and brutal Higher Journeys. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye.